Being stalked or harassed by someone anonymous or someone you knew in the past can be a haunting experience. Stalkers get extremely obsessed with their victims and can cross all boundaries to get to them. They have completely no regard for the legal consequences of their actions. In today's video, here's some of the craziest acts of stalkers who were thankfully caught by the police. Number 1. A stalker and hacker in a New Hampshire town. In the small town of Belmont, whose population is just 7,200, a hacker and stalker ran rampant in 2012. Numerous girls kept coming into the police station to lodge complaints about an anonymous person who blackmailed them into sending nudes and hacked their social media accounts and phones. Most of the girls mentioned the stalker's name to be Seth Williams. He used to send friend requests to the girls and start talking to them. Eventually, numbers were exchanged and he started demanding their nude pictures. When some of them denied him, he hacked into their phone or Facebook accounts. One of the girls shared a picture with him so that he would stop harassing her, but he didn't stop. Detective Moulton was in charge of this case and she started gathering all the evidence she could find to catch the stalker. This was becoming dangerous as the stalker knew the girls' home addresses too. After a lot of investigation, it was finally found that the stalker's actual name was Ryan Valley, a 19-year-old who had graduated from Belmont High. The one common fact among all the girls was that they had all graduated from Belmont High too. Ryan Valley was sentenced to 8 years in prison and was recently released in January of 2022. Number 2. A stalker for 15 years. Mary Stauffer was a math teacher at Alexander Ramsey High School in Minnesota. Her student, Ming, developed a crush on her and started stalking her. Throughout the 1970s, she kept stalking her and keeping records of her routine. In 1980, when Mary was going to a beauty salon along with her 8-year-old daughter, Ming kidnapped both of them and put them in the trunk of her car. Because of the noise coming from the trunk, a 6-year-old boy came running to the car looking for the source of the sound. Ming kidnapped him as well. He took the boy to a secluded place and beat him to death. He took Mary and her daughter to his home and repeatedly raped and beat up Mary for 2 months. One day, they both managed to escape from his house and run to the police. The police immediately caught Ming from his office and arrested him for kidnapping. When Mary was testifying against Ming in court, he somehow managed to bring a knife and slash her face, but she survived. Ming was sentenced to 40 years for murder and 30 years for kidnapping. Number 3. A stalker who was a serial killer. A woman named Colette Dwyer repeatedly kept complaining to the police about a man she was convinced was a serial killer. Derek Todd Lee was a customer who frequented Dwyer's place of work. Both became acquainted and Lee started getting obsessed with her. He'd repeatedly stalked her and tried to barge himself into Dwyer's house, which she didn't allow. At one point, he invited her to go to Lafayette, which she refused. This was probably the reason that Dwyer was still alive. Lee was charged with stalking but went to jail for an unrelated crime. When he was released 2 years later, he continued to stalk Dwyer again. Sometime later, a woman named Charlotte Murray Pace was found murdered and Dwyer was sure it was Lee who had killed her. After expressing her doubts to the police, they did investigate Lee, but didn't bother to take his DNA test because they thought it was a white man who murdered Pace. Another woman was murdered in the same area and Dwyer contacted the police this time as well. Still, they did not think of investigating Lee. In 2003, Lee was finally arrested for the rape of another woman and his DNA was taken. The results linked him to the murder of at least 7 women. He was sentenced to death, but had the police acted sooner, 3 murders could have been prevented. Number 4. A stalker security guard. Gary Della Penta, a security guard, was obsessed with Randy Barber, who went to the same church as him. He constantly followed her wherever she went and Barber stopped him from doing so when caught. The stalking became so intense that Barber had to eventually ask the church elders to ban him from their congregation. Della Penta didn't take this lightly and decided to turn to cyber stalking and identity theft as his next step to harass Barber. He joined several sex chat rooms as Barber and personally messaged random men to talk to them about her fantasies. He mentioned that Barber had a fantasy of being raped by random men at her apartment. He also mentioned her address, because of which several men came knocking on her door and telling her that they were there to fulfill her fantasy. Barber managed to be safe by turning them away, but she was devastated and didn't understand why this was happening. Finally, when she found out that it was Della Penta, she informed the police, who arrested him and made sure he was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Alright guys, that's a wrap for this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for more videos just like this. See you guys next time.